I paid G. Charles Wright $200 to take his audition intensive for a 5-hour workshop. And this is what I got. Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys my notes. First, who is G. Charles Wright? He's a casting director. Casting directors also are called CDs. And some of the shows he's cast is like that 70s show. I almost say him. The Middle, sorry, I'm forgetting. Lopez versus Lopez. And so one of the strategies actors use in order to be put on the screen, put on the casting director's radar, is to take the workshops that those casting directors are offering. You pay for these workshops unless it's put on through SAG-AFTRA, the union. If they're doing that, it's because okay, so technically casting directors are supposed to offer once a month, I believe once a month, an opportunity for actors to be seen by the casting directors, or SAG-AFTRA actors, so union actors. I'm not quite sure of the specifics, like if each one of them have to do it once a month, or either way, I know it's not always happening. But if you are a SAG-AFTRA actor, definitely go through the union, and there will be times where they say, hey, there's this casting director come up, and I believe it's limited to like once a month type thing. But one of the strategies for other actors, even if you are within SAG, is to see who's casting, like what shows are currently filming right now, and if that casting director has a workshop, to take their class. So that way you can show them what you've got. Now, it's possible that you might not be what they're looking for right now, but they're going to catalog it, because they're going to be like, oh, wait, this person has that little spunky attitude. Okay, I'll remember that for when something comes up, and you'll be there in their mind. So that's one of the strategies actors use in order to be seen and get jobs, right? That's one of the hopes. They range in prices, so just be mindful of that. It can be costly if you're paying $45 or $100 and something, or in this case, I paid $200 for 5 hours. And you know your budget may not allow for it, but make sure that you're being strategic about it, right? Like, why are you choosing that casting director? Like, if you're not union and you're in a union town like Los Angeles or New York, it's gonna be very hard for you to be brought onto a union role if it's because there's so many union actors in that spot. Very rarely, sometimes they'll take that chance with a brand new person, but usually if you're in a union town, again, like Los Angeles or New York, the only time you as a non-union person are going to get a union job is going to be through like a commercial, because you're helping to sell a product. And if the producers, the company really love your look, then they're going to bring you on because they are convinced you are the one who's going to help give their product the best oomph. Okay. But for the most part, it's a struggle. And I've been through many casting directors through their workshops and in-person workshops, and I've asked them this, and it's basically kind of always come back to that. You got to find some way on how to be union if you're like in those areas. But if you're in a right to work state like Texas, and I don't know if Georgia is too, but places like that, you have more opportunities to go in for jobs. But then you also have the thing like in Texas and in Georgia, where the role, when they fly it out in Los Angeles, which means it's put out there for Los Angeles actors to come in and audition for, it'll be a different rate. Usually it pays more than it does for when they put it out as available in Georgia. So there are those types of challenges. I believe the union is trying to work on things like that, but just realize that's what happens. Okay, so I took, one of the reasons why I took his workshop is because at the time he had just he was casting Lopez versus Lopez. Now it had finished. They decided that it wasn't going to, the network decided that weren't going to renew it. But still, since it was Lopez versus Lopez, and I am of, as casting would say, Hispanic, and Spanish is my first language, I'm like, okay, I wanted to be seen by him. I've also heard like great things about him, like as a casting director, but as an acting coach. And so I really wanted that experienced. So again, let me just go through my notes here and see if it's something that's you find worth it. All right, so one of the first things he said is that for a 1 hour drama, they're going to be casting 20 to 30 roles. So it's 20 to 30 actors that they're looking at now. For every role, they can get hundreds, sometimes even thousands of submissions. So there's a lot to go through. But for a multicam sitcom, 10 roles would be a lot. So again, like something like that 70s show, 10, you're not going to have 10. And the other thing to realize too, typically with a multicam show, it's going to be about 1 to 5. But also like, okay, so say with that 70 shows, the lead female actress, she had red hair. Guess what? If you were a redhead actress, you were not going to get on that show. Something about the higher ups were like, you know what, we already have one redhead. We don't need another. And it's also potentially because red hair is so unique that they wanted to keep it to just her and not kind of be like, oh wait, are they related? Like what's going on here? So just realize things like that also will happen too. All right. The casting department at the studio and the producers have to sign off. So even if the casting directors absolutely loved you, they've put you forward, this is who we think would be the best one for the role, at the studios, that casting department still has to give the okay for you. And sometimes they'll say no. Again, one of the challenges that's happened could be from the producers or some higher up executive, is that the person they're going to bring on looks too much like the female that the producers frequently cheated his wife on. And if his wife finds out that he brings someone who looks like that onto this project, again, she's going to have a fit. So sometimes things like that happen. Okay. All right. But what you can control is how you do in the audition. Show them that you're a good actor who's good at auditioning. And that's a challenge. Yeah. Because auditioning is hard. There's some actors who said, oh no, I'm not auditioning. I'm just not going to. You're either giving me the role or not. And I don't know how these people got jobs, but there's actors who absolutely do that. And then there's some actors who are phenomenal actors who've won Academy Awards who are horrible at auditioning, but they're great at doing the part. So when you're coming on up and they don't know your name, unless you're very, very lucky, just assume you really got to show them that you're good at auditioning. Okay. He also went into like some of the requirements or things that you need to know about using Zoom, because Zoom is so important nowadays for auditions, whether it's for a callback or even a first time. And so I'll link up above a video that I did covering all those must-know Zoom audition secrets. One of the challenges that they have with self-tapes is they don't know if you're consistent. And the reason why that is, it's possible you filmed that scene 25 times and you finally found a scene that you did well in, and so you submit that one. And one of the challenges that started happening is when they started bringing people to set, they started realizing, oh wait, you can't take a direction. Oh wait, what is going on with this crop? And this happened a lot more during 2020 because our response to the pandemic was to shut everything down, and self-tapes became more prevalent. Became the more common way for actors to be seen instead of going in person to audition. But then, so sometimes people who got picked weren't necessarily ones who were adaptable. So that is one of the challenges that they are kind of leery of self-tapes, is that they don't know how consistent you are, and you need to be able to deliver that performance every single time, right? He puts it like, we should be like a magician. When he does it well, it feels like magic. That's like what we do. I really love that, because I do feel like when we do it well, and whether it's seeing someone like on stage or on screen, when it's done well, like, oh no, I remember this one Sally Fields movie more recently, but she was so good, and I loved watching it. It was perfection. It was perfection. I wish she got nominated. I thought she deserved it, but anyways, yeah, it's like magic. One of the things that G. Charles Wright says, to hold your sides in your hand, which means you print it out from a printer. And part of that goes back to just, it's an audition and it's okay to hold it in your hands. That's challenging for me. Yeah, but that's part of his advice. Now realize that different casting directors are going to give different advice. You're going to hear things from one person and someone else can say, oh, that's absolutely not true. And someone else also agree. One of the archers in my club, he says, if you ask 12 different people how to do something, you're going to get 13 different answers. And this is also the case with this. So but just know, if you do go into audition for G. Charles Wright, He wants to see sides in your hands. So make sure you are holding your sides in your hands. Okay. Oh, turn in your audition as quickly as you can. If it comes in, and you have time to do it, knock it out. And part of that is like, say it might be open for 5 days that they're receiving submissions. That first day, they've already gone through the tapes that have come through, we call them tape stuff, or I call them tape stuff. They've already, what we call self-tapes. The self-tapes that have come through, and they've already picked who they like, and they've already sent that off. It's possible that first day, the producers have already fallen in love with somebody, and they don't want to see anybody else. And yeah, the casting director is going to still keep sending out the rest of the takes that they like, that they thought fit the character well. But if the producers have already fallen in love with somebody and they don't really want to see anybody else, they're not going to, because they already decided, we found the person on the first day. Now, it's possible the best person for it might have been a few days later, but if they feel like they've already found it, they've already found it. So when possible, you definitely want to submit as soon as you can. And I've heard this from many casting directors. If you can, right? Make sure you definitely know the character and know the sides, because that's more important, that you really know how to breathe life into that. You don't want to rush it just because, like, oh my God, I have to get it out today. But maybe that sense of urgency will help you study the character a little bit. Okay, for an audition, you need to read through all the way through, even the end of the scene. Even the part that's blacked off. So frequently on a side, you're going to have, or the script, you're going to have it, and then there's going to be some X's and sometimes even a black mark, a black box over a chunk of things. One of the things that I've done is I've actually gone into Adobe and I click on the edit feature and I've removed like that black box, because I'm like, I want to see exactly what it says. And part of that is there's so many little clues in there that are going to tell you what exactly is going on, so you understand how you fit in the whole rhythm of the scene. So make sure you're reading it all the way through. Take off the handles. By handle, he means huffs and puffs. I do that frequently. It reminds me, or every time I see this one Harry Potter, and I forget which one, Hermione's character, where the character Hermione, she does this, where she's like, and she closes the book, and she does these huffs and puffs, and every time I see that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me, I do that. So I need to work on taking out my huffs and puffs, so make sure you do too. And words or sounds you put or any words or sounds that you put at the beginning or end that wasn't in the script. Okay, the problem is for editing, right? For editing, for actors' cues, the show has to be a specific length. If it is a network TV show, so it's showing on something like CBS or NBC, they only have so many minutes, because the truth of the matter is we are the bait for our show. The TV show is the bait to get people to come and watch, because then as they're watching, there's going to be the commercials in between. That's why the Friends cast got paid $1 million. Yes, it was hilarious, and they did a phenomenal job, and they did a great job banding together and deciding that they were all equal. There was nobody who was more of the lead than someone else. And so they were all able to command that same price. But because it was such a great show and people loved it, the network then could charge a premium for the commercials that aired during that time. Just like the Super Bowl, right? Have you ever heard the cost of the Super Bowl and how people pay millions of dollars, companies pay millions of dollars for like 30 seconds or whatever it is? It's the same thing. We are the bait, right? For people to come and watch and still keep watching. And because of that, because the real intent is actually making the money off of the commercials, we have to be edited to a very specific amount of time, because they've already sold this slot for 30 seconds and whatnot. So we can't put too much extra time in it. The other thing too is helping the editor helps you to get more screen time. So one of the things that I tell actors is you definitely want to volunteer to be part of the crew, because you're going to learn so much that you wouldn't have understood about what they do and what they're trying to communicate to actors, and what we can do to be better to help the project as a whole. And part of that is being an assistant editor or an editor, watching what they do. When you have to edit a scene with two actors who are moving, when you realize, like, say, the other benefits to this, the other benefits to eating a pear is that your hair grows out faster. Okay. So if I say the other benefits to growing this hair is that to eating this pear, your hair grows out faster. Okay. So if I did it that first time like that, but then if I change the next time I said it went like this, one of the benefits to eating pears is that your hair grows out faster. I've moved on a different time. Okay. When the editor comes to edit and he's trying to sync up, if my movements are funky and it doesn't line up right, he's going to go with the other actor in the scene to try to make it flow better. So one of the things you need to realize too is that when you are moving, you always want to move on the same word. If the director gives you a direction to change your intention, it's the intention of your emotion, not necessarily on when you move. Unless he tells you, okay, I want you to pick up the mug on this word instead of when you've been picking it up on this other spot. Okay, but you want to change your opinion, your what it is you're trying to communicate, your emotion, what you want the other actor, the other character to feel in that scene. But you don't want to change your movements, again, for editing. This may not make sense, but get out there, be an assistant editor or editor, and you will see how much this is crucial, and it'll make more sense. In fact, if you've ever been, any type of crew position you've ever been on, go ahead and put a comment below and tell me how that helped you, how that changed your perspective in terms of being an actor. And especially if you've been an assistant editor, I would love to hear your experiences of trying to edit or watching a scene get edited by and the movements. I would love your feedback on that. Okay, let me get back to this. Okay, sometimes casting has to get a guest star. Okay, sometimes casting has to get guest star level actors to play co-star roles so they wouldn't crumble under the pressure. So co-stars kind of usually might have a line like, "She went that way," and that's it, or something as simple as that. And so guest star has a more meatier part. They're going to be in a few scenes more than just one. And sometimes they're going to get someone who's been doing more of those types of scenes, because sometimes, like the show that you're going to be on, the actor is just so good, or maybe so intimidating because they're just so good, or they're star level or whatever. You have to be able to come in and deliver. And so sometimes casting, the reason why they're going to people who really aren't looking to play co-star roles anymore is because in order to play well off that other person, they need someone who's been doing this for a bit and is not going to be intimidated by the process of it. You want, again, going back, you want to read over the whole page, because it's also going to help you to be able to see the rhythm of the jokes, and that's very important, especially for sitcoms. The rhythm of the jokes. My teacher says, like, there's rhythms usually like kind of something, and then there's something really funny that's just odd and unexpected. But realize there absolutely is a rhythm to this, especially for network TV shows. There's generally writers' rooms, and these writers have been working for weeks, if not definitely that week leading up to it, and they've deliberated and they've fought over every single word, and so they are very intentional about their jokes. So, and they have a timing to it. In fact, one of the best things you can do when you're going to audition is go back, and if it's already been airing, watch the first episode of the season and the last episode of the season, and that'll help you kind of get the feel of how the show goes, but you'll also kind of see how the jokes are flowing and then how you can go and play a part in it. Because if you're coming in, you're not there to steal the show. The lead actors, they are the lead actors. You're there to complement them, right? And so if you can see how that always goes, is the lead actors tend to play like a bigger, more animated response, or are they more of the straight man where they're just giving a more muted response? In that case, then you're the one who's going to do the bigger, crazier thing. But usually that's going to be for the leads. Okay. Now this is contradictory to what Larry Moss said, but he said, don't put in pauses where you see commas. That's good grammar, but that's not how we speak. And that is absolutely true. Now, Larry Moss was talking more about, or he was referencing about playwrights. or at least that's what he mostly works with, is in his coaching, is on plays and such like that. And so, because he says that a good writer, punctuation is a gift. If you want to see more about some of the things I talked about that, because I did get to experience him, I'll link that up above so you can watch that video. But again, this kind of goes back to different people are going to say different things. But from G. Charles Wright perspective, so when you're auditioning for shows that he's casting, don't pause at the comma, because it isn't how we naturally speak, which is absolutely true. Oh, when you're coming to audition, you want to use your computer monitor screen as for the boundaries of the eye line. So like right now, I'm looking straight into camera. That's not what you want to do for an audition. You want to look slightly off, right? So if you have like two people, there's one person here and then that person does something, and so you switch or shift over there. But you don't want to look all the way over there or like all the way like that. That's way too far off. So he's saying to use your screen, right? Because your laptop, right? Because here's like the little camera and then there's a screen, to use that as the corners. But I would say you want to be closer towards the center and just slightly off, because just your eyes moving like that little bit will give the communication of two different people. But that's something to definitely be mindful of. And when you rehearse it, you want to keep it the same place, because again, you're going to get in that habit. It also just helps you to be more comfortable and also to really visualize what the scene is. You have to see it in your mind, because that's how it's going to be believable. In the scene, be specific, have an opinion. Okay. Words that you have trouble pronouncing, write out phonetically with dashes. So English is not my first language. There are definitely words that I had challenges with. And when I took this class with him, I forget what it was. Oh man, I'm sure I have it somewhere on the side still. I could not pronounce this thing right to save my life. I was tripping. I was like, oh my gosh. And I even said, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, Spanish is my first language, and sometimes I just trip over things. What I felt like was my saving grace is the next person who came on up to audition, and we were all doing the same sides. Spanish is definitely her first language. She also could not pronounce it. And can I tell you, inside I was like, thank you. I felt vindicated. I was so relieved, so grateful. I mean, I know it was challenging for her to not be able to pronounce something correctly, but there was just something in our Spanish first brain that just didn't want to pronounce it right. So if you are having trouble pronouncing things phonetically, or pronouncing things like I did, write it out phonetically with dashes. So that means phonetically is how it sounds to you, right? So like when I'm trying to tell someone how to say like comida in Spanish, I usually write go, C-O-H, because that's how you do O, right? Go, and then a hyphen. Me, I put M-E-E hyphen da, D-A-H. So that's how I would do it phonetically. Go, mi, da. So again, it's how you would pronounce it, not necessarily how it's actually written. Okay. You want to hand in 2 takes. If you are handing in 2 takes, you're going to do it by changing one opinion. Again, you're going to have opinion about something that's going on in the scene, how your character is responding to what's going on. You're going to change that one opinion, and that one opinion is really just going to change everything else about the scene. Okay. All of these smaller roles, you have to be amazing, because some of those leads are charismatic, but they are only good for 1 or 2 takes. So some of your favorite actors on some of these amazing shows can only do it once or twice, and then that's it. So you need to be able to nail it every single time, because guess what? They're going to do the first takes with them because they know they only got 2 good takes at most, and then they're moving on to you. So you have to be amazing, because you got to be able to keep delivering every single time, or realize they might capture it in the first 2 takes and then they're just going to move on, because that actor, he's done. She's done. Can't do it anymore. They are a 2-trick pony. So just realize that you really got to be amazing. You got to be on top of it. You got to know these scenes. CDs will have you read all of the characters. So say there's customer number 1, number 2, 3, 4, waitress 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to have each different lines. Now the CD, the casting director, is going to have you read all those different lines just to see which one actually lands. Like which one just like, oh man, you were so great when you said that line. Okay. He said for theatrical and agents and managers, you want to have 3 to 4 looks for your headshot. So you don't need 12, right? 3 to 4 that are actually your looks for your types. If you tend to play more of the power type roles, your headshot, you want it facing more towards camera. You don't want it kind of like off to the side. This is kind of a little bit more shy because you're like looking away, you're not showing your full face. But if you tend to be more of the power type of or authoritative type of roles, you want a headshot where you're looking straight into camera. And he said for the blue collar headshot, that's when you do the no makeup look. But for the rest of the time, you should have some type of makeup on. He says that CDs still look at all the pictures outside of the ones submitted. So the way it works is that there's 3 or 4 or however many pictures you have up. You choose which one that you want to submit for this, because like, oh, this is when I'm the single mom, or this is when I'm the nerdy doctor, or what have you. But he says that the CDs will still look at the other pictures that weren't submitted. I've heard other CDs say that they just look at what comes on in and that's it. They don't look at anything else. But he's saying he actually looks at the other one. So just realize when you're submitting for G. Charles Wright, that he's going to look at all of that's there. He also says that if you have a great body, you should have a photo of you. Now, make sure it's in good taste. They're not trying to look at soft porn, okay? You're professional. This is a business. And if you have a great body, have a picture that shows it off. Just like for myself, since I do archery, I should have pictures and videos of me doing archery. So that way the CDs can see like, oh, wow, she actually does really do. This is not just some fluff she's putting in her resume. Let's try that again. It's super important to know who we are and what we play well and not confuse the two. This is probably one of the hardest things. And it's so true. So many actors have lost themselves because they hadn't beat their demons. And you got to be settled in who you are. You really do. All of the things that you're still battling, you got to work on them. You got to work on your mindset. This is a brutal, brutal business. And if you look like the child molester, you're always going to get called in for the child molester. If you're playing the studio game, they're going to bring you in for that. Okay? If you are the sexy, edgy chick, like Charlize Theron, they're going to keep bringing you in for that until you get to a point in your career like she did where she could play the role of monster. Okay? But it takes some time before you can get that clout. And you have to realize who you are as a person. You are not that child molester. You are not that rapist. You are not the person who always cheats on your spouse. But maybe you play that well. But that's not who you are. You're a good person. And it's hard to not confuse the two. And that's really where you got to have the support of others around you and do things outside of the entertainment industry. Your whole life can't focus around this. It can't. I'll link up a video above touching more on that. But yeah, it's really important to know that there is a difference between how they're going to see you, and it's how we all see people, right? Like when you meet someone and if you get that stranger danger vibe, please listen to that. Like usually your instincts on that are pretty right, but it's the same thing. When we see someone, we're already assessing who it is that we think they are. And it's the same thing with this because it is a business and people are naturally doing that anyways, but that's not who you are, right? So it's an important thing to separate out. One of the last things too is that he mentioned is to be considered a local hire is you need to be within a 500-mile radius. That's one thing that comes up a lot of times. That is not a SAG-AFTRA term. That's actually a production term. They want people that are local because basically they're not going to pay you to. They're not going to pay to fly you out there. They're not going to pay for your hotel. They're not going to pay for your per diem. So if you say you're a local hire, it's because you can drive yourself to set. You live there. You should have an address. And productions are getting much more strict about this because the states are getting much more strict about this because of the incentives that they're giving, right? There's all these money that they're giving back to productions if you film in their state. But part of that is you got to hire people from that state. And it was a little bit more loose before, but because there is so much money in this, the states are really starting to crack down on this, which means the production is really starting to crack down. So if you live in Georgia, you should really live in Georgia. Now, maybe that's your hometown is in Atlanta, then great, you're using your mom's address, your parents' address, and you're flying in and staying with them. If that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. But, you know, if you live in Ohio, you shouldn't say that you are a local hire for Atlanta when you have no ties to that place whatsoever. Now, with one of the reasons why I also took the class with G. Charles Wright is because I'd heard so many amazing things about him as a casting director, but also as an acting coach. And I have to say, I thoroughly benefited from his class. I felt like he really challenged me. Yeah, and that's what I need. That's how I get better. And he was absolutely right, like that I needed more opinions. I needed to be more specific, and I do. And I do feel like at some point I'm actually going to take his acting classes because I feel like I do need to be stretched in the way that he's going to stretch me, in the way he's going to challenge me. So do I feel like it's worth it? Absolutely. Do I think you should take it? I do, but it's because I appreciate stuff like that. Like one of the things he said, because one of the gentlemen brought up, and he was older. He looked like he was at least in his 40s, white, in his 40s, male. And he said, you know, he's having a hard time with roles. There isn't really too many co-stars or whatnot going out. And this is where G. Charles Wright was just straight out honest. And it was like you could hear a pin drop in the Zoom meeting. But I love the honesty. We need to hear it. And he said, well, the fact of the matter is things are changing, but most roles are still for white men in their 20s. And there are roles still for like men in their 30s, but there's less in their 40s and there's less as people get older. Now, there's still a lot more roles than there are for women. For women, there's a lot less roles once you start getting outside of your 20s. That's just how it is. And I appreciate it so much that he said this because that's the truth. That's the honest truth. That's the state of the industry right now. Now, of course, yes, things are changing and there is more diversity and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is it's still mostly for white men in their 20s or 30s. So just realize that part of the reason why you're feeling this crunch of you feel like you're not getting as many auditions or there's less roles because as time goes on, we get older and we are aging out of what is available or what they're offering, which is why it's also so important that you're creating your own content, that you're making your own short films, your own TV shows, your own full-length feature films. Because not only are the streamers looking for this, but the studios, again, still have a very, what they're looking for may not necessarily be you. So get out there, create your own content so that's where you have stuff you can still out there and keep being acting. And hey, get quality people to help you produce these things to get it done. And maybe it's something that can be featured on one of the streaming platforms because they absolutely need more content. They've doubled down so hard on the subscription and they need more stuff coming in. So your production might be something that they're looking for. It's one of the things that you see a lot of the A-listers starting to do. They have their own production companies. Some of them are winning Academy Awards for the roles that they're playing on a film that the studios were never going to pick up. They were never going to shoot that film. But the actor fell in love with the role, brought it to her production company, pushed it forward, and yeah, things like that happen all the time. So get out there, create your content. One of the strategies, again, actors use to get roles is to take the workshops in front of the casting directors. If you do that, just make sure you're being strategic. If this person tends to cast more of the comedies, then go with them. If you're strong with comedy, or maybe you just want to get the exercise, that's great too. But don't just take someone just to take someone. Try to have some reason behind it. All right. Hope you guys are having a great day. Go out there, create your own content.